Hey everyone, welcome back. Robbers of Catan, game four, board five. We have a good matchup here. Hunter and I are back, commentating on this one. I'm excited, Hunter. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm excited, and I think the biggest storyline in play is here is Spatulous Steve in the orange has currently was riding a 3-0 victory record heading into this match. Has pulled out some wins, including over both of us, you know,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
4-0s. It's hard to win a single game Catan, much less four in a row, and so we're eagerly waiting to see if she can pull off the four-peat, go perfect in the regular season, get the bye into the playoffs. And then we have some other, Anish, can you talk about her competition here?
Yeah, so in the red, we have Steven is my mom, I assume, is the whole username there. And they are placing third. They've been doing pretty decently in the tourney so far. I think they're kind of in the middle of games here and there, but they're very good at the game, very experienced. They've played in tourneys before, and they have a lot of experience under their belts. In blue just placed in the first position, Joni, 9773. They also have been doing pretty decently, I would say. I don't think there's been any weak competition in this tournament, and honestly, very experienced player as well. They've played before, and it should be a good one from them as well. And they place on the strong starting or spot, trying to cut off any other potential placements there, maybe.
Yeah, and
And then
yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was just saying, like, I think typically, just 8-4-3 spot, you wouldn't typically see him pick first. You usually try to go for, like, I think it's like a 6-5-9, 8-5-10. But looking at this board, it is, you might call it a weak board. You look at, you have three of the eights and sixes are on edge. One of the eights is next to the desert tile. There's not a lot of overwhelmingly strong positions on this board, which means that the weaker positions are not going to be as weak as they typically are, because it's a little bit more diffused. But we might have a little bit of a slow start to the first part of the game. We do see that, like, not 1, 5, 10, 9 spot getting picked there. We can assume that Joni was prioritizing the ore production with 8-4-3. But 9, 5, 10, you can't hate on that. That's great. On this board, it's the most bang for your buck you're probably going to get, and it's good resource diversity, especially with sheep being so scarce on this board.
Yeah, and Black Lamahawk, they are actually a new player in the tourney. I don't think they've played in Robbers of Catan before, but they're a pretty decent player as well. They've played one game so far documented, where they got third place, but with a decent number of victory points, 6 points. So I think their first starting spot here is actually quite strong. I think they have three resources that they can draw heavily from. I think there's enough access to wood here on the board if they want to go that direction. I think ore will be hard to come by, but there is a 3-for-1 port there. But we do see red placing quickly on the 8s or 10 sheep, completely cutting off access to the wheat port, and then going for another deep brick wheat spot, very strong. Pointing up to the wood port, which they don't have access to any wood, but uh, interesting play for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to call out here, because do have this kind of competitive spotlight on Spatula Steve. Going for that 6-11-4 spot, we have both, we have witnessed. I personally have witnessed every single game that Spatula Steve has played so far. Spatula Steve loves the development card and city strategy. Will always prioritize going for those city spots first, and has paid dividends. I mean, Spatula Steve has, in the first two games of the tournament, citied on turn 2 or turn 3 very early. That kind of early production has been key to their game moving forward, and we'll see if they can kind of continue that momentum moving forward. But yeah, it's been very interesting. We've already seen two people claim 2-for-1 ports with their placements. You know, Usually not a very common thing when there's initial placements, but we can kind of see Specialist Steve thinking, hey, 11-4, I'm going to be getting lots of resources there. And in this board where, it's maybe going to be hard to generate raw resources, we can see some competitors prioritizing specific game plans while also trying to have some additional flexibility if they need it.
Yeah, I think actually, you're right. Orange does get a lot of starting cities. I think they tend to place on wheat and ore a lot. But in this case, they're actually in a very tough spot because they've just been blocked off the 6-11-3 spot, which is a very common spot to take, I would say, like very good spot for blue to take for the free road. Um, and now they're going to have to build two roads to settle anywhere else. So it's going to be a slow start, especially without the sheep production. Uh, Low ore production for the 2-for-1 ore port. We'll see. I mean, maybe the city will help right early on.
Yeah, and I swear I could hear Specialist Steve yelling "fuck" when that 6-11-3 spot was placed by Joni. I mean, again, like this is a thing we saw in last game where Specialist Steve was cut off pretty early. Didn't like that, and we see once again that up on the top of the map on that 10-8. They're gonna have to build down a few spots to get past black and red settlements. They're gonna have to go down to 3-4 or 5-11 spots. You don't want to have to build two rows to get to the spots, especially spots that maybe aren't the most desirable. And then you said obviously was trying to angle for that 6-11-3 spot, gets blocked off. It's going to probably have to go up to maybe that 11-12, maybe that 12-5-6 is probably the ideal target. And so we'll see. Last game, the story of it was Special Steve had one of the better comebacks I've seen recently, where they had some good initial placements, got some cities, but were really locked in with three settlements in three cities and couldn't really expand, but managed to snag the largest army, managed to snag 2 victory points to get to 10, and we'll see if they can repeat that success again this game.
Yeah, I think overall we have two starting roads, pretty active. I think pretty good road building on this board, so shouldn't be a super, drawn out game, super gritty or anything like that. You'll notice actually there is so much wheat on the board, so much wheat
Yep.
production, but no access to the wheat port, right? You might have seen. So that'll be interesting. I mean, no wheat equals defeat, like we've been saying, but maybe too much wheat at some point is not useful either, right? Like you need to balance out the resource production somehow. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how things evolve here.
Yeah, and then when the wheat, everyone's on a wheat spot on a 5 or a 6, and so we're going to be
Hmm.
seeing lots of consistent wheat production as long as those are being rolled. And initially, just kind of taking a look at this board, is there anyone that you think is particularly well set up?
Um, I would say if I had to pick right now, I would say honestly, red is in a good spot. I really like the dev card setup because they have so much production there. The main drawback there, right, is obviously they don't have the expansion spots, and the expansion spots don't necessarily make sense, right? Like the 9 sheep for the wood port, there's no reason for the wood port. But then the road building is lacking too, right? But you never know, right? If you have that much access to dev cards and you have the 10 brick, maybe you can trade for wood somehow, get the roads. Maybe you can settle on the 3-for-1 port down in the with the 8 ore. And if you can do that, then I think you're in a very very strong spot after setting up everything.
Yeah, and we see the robber game move to the 8 wood spot. That is going to slow this game down. Not
Yeah, way
only
down.
is there only a 3, 4, and 2 spot on the board, the only other spot with wood that's currently settled is a 3. So 3 is not
Hmm.
going to see that often. Without the 8, we're going to see this game probably. This could be in for a bit of a slog fest, and I think you know we'll see. I think like you have to be intrigued by blue and black's opportunity for growth here. You can see black already building 2 roads down. Black is on that 2-for-1 port for brick. Who knows if they'll have extra brick at this point in the game. It seems like they'll probably need it to do their aggressive expansion, but they kind of have the whole right side of this board open to them, including some solid spots. Like they can go for that 6-4-3 spot, they can settle there. They can go for that 5-2 port on the 3-for-1. They have a lot of interesting opportunities. And red, red is kind of red and orange are kind of a little more hemmed in versus blue. Blue also like we can see they can go for that 11-4-9 spot. They can kind of start to try to encroach on black's side, but right now it's starting to look like black maybe has a stranglehold on that whole side of the map. And when you have that, you can definitely expand. The question is, can you expand quickly enough?
Yeah, and I think Black's biggest question mark for the game will be the ore production, right? They're the only player without any ore production, and that'll be a hindrance in the long term. They'll have to get some ports, maybe the 3-for-1 port, like you said, and the 2-for-1 brick might help in the late game, but we'll see. Hopefully, they can city early. That'll be their key.
A
And
city
we see
early would
red
be
building down to
huge.
the 3-for-1.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to
city early
assume
for
they can
anyone would be huge.
settle. You have to assume they can get longest road just with the way they're currently
Mhm.
set up. And so
Hmm.
if they can do that, but say they build the maximum of 5 settlements and get longest road, that's still only 7 VP.
Right, exactly. And I've had my firsthand experience with that type of game. So I would say it's a tough game to play if you're going to try to do that. So
Yeah, and we
we'll
do
see. I
we
mean,
yeah.
they do settle early, right? They are the first player to settle here. So
Yeah, and you have to love it for them, and they're getting once again they're on both now the 5 and the 6 wheat port. They're getting plenty of wheat. As long as that 3 rolls for them, that 10 rolls for them, they'll hopefully get some sheep. They'll probably be and then they got the wood. They'll have some of the brick to build. Like they're the first one to feel like they kind of have an engine running. And it's interesting, I've been tracking the, kind of the pivot a little bit. I've been tracking the robber placement, and we've seen kind of shuttling around that 8, 6, and 8 spot, where it's kind of like there's a lot of these like very strong spots that are double settled by players.
hmm
We can see moving now
hmm
to the 10. Once again, I think a lot of this is going to be dictated by who's placing it. I think we're going to
hmm
start to see that, as it moves around, it could have very big impact on just the whole flow of the game because of how strong these spots are for multiple players.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, objectively, I might go for the 9 brick here just to stifle Black's production, so that they don't expand those roads. They
Yeah,
have the 3 settlements, they have the production. I think they're the target. If you're trying to go for them directly, then you go for the 9 brick. I think the reason Orange might have placed there is to steal from Red, and I think that was the only spot to go. And they are very strong, and they did just settle. I think they're in a very strong spot now. They could city quick.
yeah, they can say very quickly they have a 3 for 1 port, and the only worry for now for them is that a spot too exposed. We'll see. It seems like because they've prioritized that spot, it might be hard to. We can see Specialist Steve has already kind of made that aggressive play for 12-5-6 spot. We talked about that being a strong spot for them. They're gonna love that. It gives them so much more wheat production. And once that happens, Red is going to be in that situation where they won't really have a lot of expansion opportunities, and so they're going to be on that city side. They're going to have to be going over concentration. I'm sure they'll love to like have a city on every one of those spots. The worry then is do you just rob that 8 and shut them off completely?
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I mean, everything's taken up to be a bit of a slogfest here.
Yeah, yeah. It is a bit slow, but at least people are settling and making some progress. I think this 10 sheep block is not going to be super effective and necessarily stifling overall development, right, and progress here.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think that you have to imagine that was motivated by trying to want to rob from red, and then but also wanting to kind of spread the level a little bit, not trying to go for that
Hmm.
9 spot up top, be
Right.
targeted. And
Don't
we see
make
the
enemies
8
early.
rolling. Steven getting those, or you have to love to see it.
Hmm. Yeah. I think this is his game plan, right? Like he's just gonna try to see if he can city and they're yeah. I mean, blue here is trying to give ore for sheep.
Probably
I
for that
assume
settlement.
that they're trying to settle. We'll see.
And
They
they're
did
able to
make the
get it.
trade, and
They
they do
get a two
settle.
for one
Yeah.
Steven. And I mean, if you're Steven, you don't necessarily need that ore. You get lots of ore
Hmm.
production, but that wood, you can't turn down that wood. And a
hmm
2 for 1, the ore is
That's
just
right.
free, baby.
That's right. I think that's a very good trade for both sides, honestly.
Yeah, and if you're
Especially
you're
because there's no access to wood.
exactly. And if you're trading with your only competitor that's still at two victory points, you don't really have to. You're not as concerned about helping someone else win. And we see Llama using that knight to bring I think we're gonna have a
Hmm.
big knight fight out between all these players.
hmm
We went straight to the 8. Kind of we predicted that being the common spot. And hey, if you're Steve, you're gonna have to be drawing development cards constantly because they've already used one knight. They might have another one in hand because you know that you're gonna be a target.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be a big race here. I mean, we saw in our first feature game that we commentated, it was a big race for Army. There is a decent amount of dev card production, especially with as much wheat as there is. If people can get to ports, even though that 8 ore might be consistently blocked, there'll be enough production overall to make this happen.
Yeah, and if you're Steven here, you have to, you have to believe, as counterintuitive as it might seem, I think that the most important tile for Steven is that 5 wheat, because that 8 ore, it will get rolled, it will produce a lot. That's, of course, if it doesn't get rolled, that's a problem. But you have to assume it's gonna get there. The 9 and 10 sheep, that's some good diversity, and Steven doesn't need sheep for anything but development cards. Steven's like settling's not gonna really be on the game plan. And so that wheat is going to be crucial for the cities. It's going to be crucial for the development cards. And because we know that Steven's going to be this really popular target for all these knights that are flying around, they're going to probably want to be constantly pulling development cards. And so you need the wheat to sustain that, and also hopefully be producing a little bit extra so you can use that excess ore you're generated from your 8s to get a city. And I think, like, the 5 spot's probably not going to be blocked, but that spot rolling is going to be key to Red's strategy.
Yeah, and I think that's why it could very well be blocked. If red becomes enough of a threat here, the 5 wheat is the spot to block, especially if orange settles on this 6-5-12 spot. I think that'll be the obvious target in some cases, if those players get strong enough. Because then in that case, red won't be able to produce any wheat, and that completely cuts everything off. That'll make everything so much more difficult.
Yeah, and then they do have the 3-for-1 port. They do have other ways to get the resources they need, but you never want to be 3-for-1ing.
Hmm. Not consistently, at least.
Yeah, I mean it's a great tool to have in the arsenal. It makes you
Hmm.
feel better about doing the trades at the banks, but 3-for-1 is just, you're just losing so many resources to get what you need.
Right.
Alrighty, and we see Llama Hawk, at 8, trying to make some trades. It seems like they have a lot of wood in hand, and we're not really seeing any early takers. When you see them just opting to buy a development card, you have to assume that they were in a position where they needed that brick to build their settlement, or they needed that we see a big turn. They see them trading a 2-for-1 with Steven for this 2 woods to get a second development card. Very interesting. Llama Hawk, we talked about it. Like, development cards are not going to be very easy to come by because they don't have that ore, but they're able to grab it from Steven. And, like, maybe that's going to be a partnership. Steven doesn't have access to wood. Llama Hawk
Right.
doesn't have access to ore. Maybe that's a partnership that will pay fruit for both of them.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a very interesting game in that the ore production is so it's so isolated in that single like area at the bottom left of the board, where there's so much competition for that space, and the ore production isn't even that elite, right? If you look, yes, there is the 8 spot, but if that spot is being consistently blocked, the 4 and 11 are not necessarily great spots,
Yeah.
and
The
yet
city,
there's so much settlement there.
yeah, but the city queen has struck. Spatula Steve putting down that early,
First
early
state.
in terms of the board state. That first city on that 11-4-6 spot, that 6 spot being blocked. Of course, not the best
Hmm.
for them. They really try to get it off, but you can see this robber is flying around.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fun game, and blue steals from orange here. I guess orange is now considered somewhat of a threat. But yeah, what do you think? Who do you think is the actual leading player right now? We do see black with 2 dev cards.
Yeah, I mean, you do. Everyone is at 3 right here. I still think that it's one. This is one of the more early games where I've seen not really a lot of separation so far, and it's been interesting. Like if you count it up, when we did some quick mental math, we've seen 8 development cards drawn. Do you know how many roads we've had built outside of the original free ones? We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have had just as many development cards pulled as roads built.
Sure, sure.
And
Yeah,
well, now there's been more roads,
yeah.
but
It's all around.
yeah, now my opinion is all a wash. But this is the kind of game I think we're in where these development cards, they've been flying around, and we talked about how some people were set up very well for them, but we're seeing even the players that aren't set up well for them are prioritizing them. You see Llama Hawk has pulled 3 development cards without a single bit of ore production. We see 2 competitors already at 2 for largest army, and for some of these players, you have to assume that's a big part of their strategy, get largest army. But we're seeing like the robber's flying. We talked about how there's all these spots that the robber would be very strong on, or really, you know, debilitating for different players. I think the players have recognized that. They've prioritized development cards, and we're seeing it. It's going to be flip flop, and who knows? Maybe we'll reach a point where there's no more development cards. We haven't seen it yet in the tournament, but if any game can get there, I think it might be this one. We see Joni. I think you have to maybe assume Joni now is in the front running position, pulling out that city. That 8 spot is going to be real attractive to Robin right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong city. I think after this, the cities will just come very, very quickly. But notice something: Orange placed a road on the 6-3, kind of going to nowhere. The reason, what this makes me think is they don't want Blue to connect for longest road, potentially because they're going to try to win by longest road. So just be on the lookout for that.
Yep.
It could happen. They do have the production for it. They have the port for trading the ore for wood or weed or not weed, wood or brick, and getting the road themselves that way. And I think that's probably going to be part of their win condition here.
Yeah, and if you're a Llama Hawk, you love to see that blocking happening. You kind of the
Hmm.
only real competition you really thought you might have for longest road is Blue, and
Hmm.
they already are so deeply handicapped there. Of course, you have to actually connect your kind of two discrete areas here to really maximize that. I think they can. I think that's part of their strategy, and they love to see that. And you see, Spatula Steve falling a little bit behind here, just in terms of settlements and city counts, and we can see, maybe just catching a lot of incoming flack. Not necessarily, you know, trying to go after people, but that 8 spot's been blocked, the 6 spot's been blocked. They're exposed, and once again, we kind of have this thought where maybe their engine will start pulling here. Now that they have, that city on the 11 and 4. They have that port. Maybe they'll be able to start generating what they need. But, Specialist Steve, you know, is down, but as we've learned through the tournament, Specialist Steve is never out.
Yeah, yeah. I've played against Bachelor Steve twice, and I've lost both times. And both times it was like, what the heck is going on? And then it just like the win just happens out of nowhere. It's like an assassin. It's like crazy. I've never experienced games like that. So, uh, yeah, props to them, right? Like, it's a tough game right now. I would say this blocking the 6 weed is going to be really debilitating. I don't think they can really make any moves with just wood, brick, and ore production, right? They're not really compatible like that. So.
Ooh,
We'll see. I
Monopoly.
mean, maybe something will happen. And yeah, we do see a big monopoly here, and I think it could be a plow, and that'll be really bad.
Oh,
Oh man.
oh,
Yeah.
that is well. First of all, I mean, extremely well timed. Doing all that, only stole 6 ore or 6 wheat. Had like didn't actually use all of it. Like I want to call it here, like just was already set up so well. Like literally only used one of the wheat they stole. I guess it's a little bit of an overplay maybe to get there one settlement, but now yeah, you said cut off orange. Orange is now in really dire straits. Like really that 3-for-1 port is their best opportunity
Hmm.
now, and you don't. That's not a 12 and 11. That's not really generating new resources. You know, blue can. There's a world where they can maybe even circumvent around orange to get their largest road
Hmm.
here. They have so much wheat in hand. We see they just traded with Specialist Steve, giving up a wheat and a brick for 2 ore. I think we're going to see Joni with a city potentially on their turn. I mean, blue's
Yep.
looking like they're, of course, like that move right there seems to just have set them up so well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a huge play. I think the mono is worth it in that case. So even if you need just the one we like, in this case, right? At this point, I feel like that really takes orange out of the game completely, especially for the time being, because. Like especially now, this 6 spot is definitely going to be hit even more because now there's 4 production points, right? Like you could say like if two settlements are 2 points and the city is another 2 points. There's 4 points worth of buildings on that spot. That's huge, and especially on a 6 production spot, like it'll be a six wheat and 8 ore all day. So this is going to be really tough.
Yeah, and I mean we see Joni here at 9. I'm very
Hmm.
curious to see. No seven gets rolled, what they can get done. Oh, no seven gets rolled. They
Oh,
get
that's
two. Oh,
huge
they
though.
get two, or I mean, it's a city. We know it's a
Oh,
city. Is it just
city.
one? Is it
Or,
two? It's two.
oh my God.
Oh,
Dude,
I
what a
mean,
mono. Honestly, what a mono. Like, that's a mono right there, for
I
real.
mean,
That's crazy.
all the stars aligned. They
Yeah.
had the road building resources they needed. They were just short on the wheat to get their settlement. You know,
Hmm.
the Mono took it,
Oh,
snagging largest
biggest
roads
turn.
here.
That's a
They're at
4 point
9
turn.
already. They may be the game's. This game might be over real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a 4 point turn, and that was set up by the previous turn's mono, in which they plowed to get to the 6-5-12. I mean, maybe a game-winning play, right? Like,
I mean, and
um,
I think it's. I mean, I think it's hard to doubt that. I think that
yeah.
of course, it's the initial setup and it's the follow through. It's the holding on to so much wheat, being able to make that trade for two ore, being able to get an additional two ore, which presumably they already had two in hand. Like they got what they needed when they needed it. It is there's a fair bit of great time in there, and it's just I mean, the game's over, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is the way to play the game, I guess, right? Like, you just want to, like, kind of lurk in the shadows, kind of disguise yourself, just like stick around, and then you make your move in one instant. And a mono is like the perfect card to make that type of move with, right?
Yeah,
Because there's a
a
huge
well timed
turnaround.
mono. There's probably no better card development card in the game. You love to see it. I mean, they can lose largest road to red here. That's all, or to no red. Sorry, to to Specialist Steve to black. But even then, Specialist Steve, that four actually I'm talking about. They can't build on that four. The big threat here
Hmm.
is Lamahawk, but Lamahawk needs to build three rows to take it from them. Either they're set up well in the long term. Those three rows in the short term, it's gonna be hard to surpass what Joni's able to do on the road side. Because look at all those cities and all those road building spots.
Yeah. I think you can't even prevent really the settle, and the settle is the win condition here. Um, So we'll see. I mean, it'll be a road battle at best if they can somehow pull it out, and blue doesn't get any resources here.
Yeah, and it is. It's just, I was telling you, it's such a close game.
Yeah.
We were talking about we did there's a lot of things we like about blue setup, but that mono and the time and the resources right before and right after. I mean, it's just so hard to beat it when someone can just get six resources instantly.
Yeah. 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 It's
Big
crazy.
explosive
It's a
turn.
crazy thing.
It puts himself in a place where it's hard to kind of mess with their game plan too. They're spread across so many spots. I'm sure we can see Spatulous Steve is trying to cut them off,
Oh,
trying to make sure their road is going to be shorter
I
while
like it.
also
I
forwarding their
like
game
it.
plan. It's a good plan. I mean,
Fighting.
wow, big
Yeah.
play. Send back large short. I will point out, Joni can also build the other direction. You know, this might be a
Right.
case where you know hopefully Jody doesn't have any resources in hand. They've been a little bit dry. I mean, big play from Spatula Steve just to buy some extra time if anything.
Yeah. It'll be kind of protracted, especially if the other three players can work together to keep road
But
away
Jody
from blue.
just like that getting four resources.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It'll be tough because the production is pretty insane.
I mean,
But if they can hold road off, they have a chance. I would say they have a chance. They just
yeah,
have to hold it off.
yeah. But I mean, we got on the list. I mean, Joni's production on a three, that's three resources. On a four, that's four resources. On a five, that's two resources. On a six, that's three resources. On a nine, that's two resources. So, they're on more than half the pretty much more than half the numbers that can be rolled. They're producing two or three resources.
But they have no ports, so they need to make sure that the resources they roll can work together, right? So,
Yeah,
like, it'll be tough. It's not that simple. But just getting the resources isn't enough because you don't have a port. But if they sell in 3 for 1, then yeah, it'll make things a lot easier.
yeah, and I don't think I said I think if I'm them and I build a settlement, I'm building that settlement there first. I mean, you do that, then
Hmm.
I think that you're in a really great spot.
Hmm.
We can see they're gonna need to be blocked pretty much the whole rest of the game, and it's gonna be a tightrope act. The window of opportunity to beat them is very narrow, and it's gonna
Hmm.
require the rest of the competitors working together. As I said, there is a world where you know if you're say you're Steven, you're red, you can pull out largest army, you can get yourself up to 7, you still have a development card in bank. Like Lamahawk can get largest army too. Like it isn't impossible. It's just very improbable. I mean,
Right,
there it is.
right.
The 4 is backbreaking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like they just had to hope for some lucky sevens, right? Like, and they can work together. The thing is, like, they can work together. The table talk is totally allowed, and it's necessary at this point, right? Like they can't win if they don't work together. But then it's like a negotiation of like, I don't want to give up too much because then I'll give up too much for my own game, right? I don't want to. I don't want the other guy to win, but I also need a chance to win myself, right? So it's like a balancing act, and it's those conversations are super interesting all the time because now these three have to negotiate amongst themselves,
Yeah,
and
and
otherwise it's kind of like there's this impending doom of blue just like instantly winning at any given point.
yeah, I'll say like for what you see, Specialist Steve proposing a series of trade, very active, usually in that table talk, in that trade, in those trades. But we're at a point now where Steven's gonna make a little move here, but Jody's at 8 cards in hand, and I think the distribution isn't great. But if they get what they need right here, game could be over very quick. We see them using that knight they've been holding in hand, getting off their spot, rolling a 3, getting even more resources. I mean, Joni, 12 cards in hand. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, it should be a big turn. They should definitely settle.
If they
I
can,
think
yeah. The road
yeah,
can be
if
taken
they
later.
can.
Yeah.
The road can be taken later, and I think if anything, the road is
Oh,
just part of the
okay. A
draft.
city. I mean, they're at 8 now. They
That
just gotta get
works.
back largest road to win the game.
That works.
Oh,
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 oh, okay.
oh.
So this is interesting now because now they're at 9. If they take road back, they win with 11, which actually doesn't matter in this tourney because the VPs are tiebreakers. So winning with 11 is very rare, but it's very possible as well. We see largest armor getting taken. It's very close now. A natural 9, a pure 9, and I don't know. I don't
I
know
mean,
what's gonna happen.
I think if you're joining them, that's the play you have to make. You have to take
Hmm.
those resources because it gives you so much flexibility. Now on the 3-4 important. Hey, like you'd love to get back largest road. You still
Hmm.
have a pretty good amount of roadway ahead of you on both sides. Like you're definitely cut off. You can only go up to what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. They can only go up to 9, and so they need to
Hmm.
snag it soon. But I mean, they're going to be presumably getting so many resources by their next turn. They're going to have that 3-4 import. They'll probably be able to do it. And if they can't do it, hey, all they got to do is settle or city or pull a VP and they
Yeah.
win. Like you have to
Yep.
go up to 9 if you can. You know, they are just a juggernaut in this game right now.
Well, I will say I don't think they can city. They've built 4 cities. They could settle, but settling is still hard, right? They need to road settle. So both those paths are actually kind of difficult. I would say road is probably the easiest because you have to road anyways. You might as well road for longest road. But on top of that, I would say maybe just pull dev cards. Like maybe there's
Yeah.
only 2 dev cards that anyone has here. That means there's gonna be max only 2 VPs pulled. If that, it's possible that's the
Yeah,
case.
and
But
I
even
mean,
then, there's three left in the deck, and they're not being pulled. I feel like they should be, especially if you're trying to get one, right?
yeah, and I think if they're going to take longest road, now's the turn they have to take it. We see Lamahawk almost connecting their super road. Once they connect that, it's going to be put out of reach for Joni, which presumably they're going to try to do it next turn. I mean, but Joni's at 7 cards in hand. I do think that largest road might not be a path to victory. I think we might be seeing a rare, not largest road, not largest arm victory here, just because of the setups. But I said they're at 9. They got built one city, one settlement, pull one VP. There's so many avenues.
They could build it. They have two brick. I don't know if what else they have, but they could trade in potentially for 2 wood. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
and that's the
They're
thing.
waiting too
And that's
long.
the thing is like Lomhawk was in that position where not being able to connect that road on this turn and staying at 6. It
Hmm.
could be just the window of opportunity Joni needs right here. We'll see.
Right.
I mean, I assume just based on
Yeah.
mouse
I
number
assume
thinking they
this
don't
one.
have it, and we see they pass the
Yeah.
turn. Lamahawk, everyone getting tons of wheat on that 6. We talked about earlier. Lamahawk connecting the
Okay.
road,
10.
closing that window. Joni is going to need to do it in our way. However, they have 16 cards in hand. I mean, they have a city in hand. We know that. That's the game. A 7 needs to get rolled.
Yeah,
That's that simple.
and we see black actually is at 9, and if they city, it's over.
I'm
And
no.
they
I
have
mean,
built.
actually, no. it's 2 sevens in a row if Black can't win. I mean, Black can't win. Black game to 9, very impressive, very close. But I mean, Joni has enough. We see right here sitting
You're
in
right.
hand in the resource. They can discard half their hand and still keep that. There needs to be exactly 2 sevens the next roll. Otherwise, I mean, Joni has won the game.
Well, they can't build a city,
Well,
right?
that's one. That's one
Oh,
seven.
that is fun.
Joni's gonna have to
There's
discard
another one
half of their
fun.
hand. We know they can keep the city resources in their hand with 8 cards. There needs to be
But they
enough.
can't city, right?
No, they can. Well, they just they can discard. They can keep the city ones in hand.
Well, but don't they? Didn't they already build 4 cities?
Oh, is this 4 cities the max in this league?
I think so. I think so.
Ooh, if that's the case, then we could be seeing a great come from behind victory in Lamahawk here with both the largest army and the largest road currently held.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So this will be kind of complicated, but we see 2 rows being. Oh, I think it's over. I think this is
Yep.
settle. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
So you're
yeah.
right. In
I,
a sense.
yeah. I mean, it's a quick look through. Dice stats, pretty even across the board. But you go and look here, and I love looking. The resource stats showing you develop. 90 resources basically. The 71,
Yeah.
71, 57. I mean, they were just generating. Not really active in the trades, not really active in development cards, but they just their spots hit when they need them to hit. That monopoly play was one of the most you know effective and well-timed plays I've seen recently. And instead,
Yeah.
you have to give props. Steven and Lamahawk both getting up to 9. Steven with that,
Hmm.
I was wondering why they were holding 2 development cards and not getting the largest army if they had it. Well,
Yeah.
we now know it's two
Now we
VPs.
know.
Game was a lot closer at the end than we thought it, but that play, it was just, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
highlight.
Yeah. That's a crazy, crazy play. I haven't seen a mono like that in I don't even know how long. But that completely, right? Like that completely changed the game, right? Like Orange was trying to settle there. They had a chance. Like Orange coming into this game was 3-0, going for 4-0, and maybe people knew that, right? Maybe people knew that, and I guess Joni here took the opportunity, monoed for just getting the one extra wheat, like he said, just to settle,
I mean,
and then
yeah, I remember placing that
use
the second settlement right on the 6-11-3 spot, which Orange was trying to go for, which Specialist Steve wanted.
yeah, 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 and I think that I mean that completely took Orange out of the game too, right? Like that's because Orange can't build that many roads in that game, and they need every road they can get, and losing it like that is just devastating, right? Like just road settle, can't do anything about it,
Yeah,
right? Like it's just
yeah, the high
a
risk,
crazy
high
play, and then the
reward
next
initial
turn.
strategy.
And in the next turn, it's like 2 cities and longest road. It's like so within the span of 2 turns with a mono, there's a 5 point jump, and they didn't keep longest road necessarily, to be fair, but everything else is still very valid, and they had the window of opportunity there too, right? So like that, all that stuff mattered. It was a very good game, and it was very close, right? Like all like 10-9-9. It's very very
Yeah,
close.
I mean, after that initial mono play, if you told me it was gonna be 10-9-9, I would have said, oh, hot damn. But
Hmm.
we saw him pull out, great game. I think through and through. Definitely a few highlight moments. Like can't wait to go back and look at the video. But yeah, and thank you for joining us, Anish. I mean, on to the rest of the games, and coming up next week we'll be having the playoffs starting. I'm really excited for that. And we
Yeah,
said
it'll be
Specialist
a good
Steve,
set of games.
3 wins. They're gonna be they're gonna be fine. Johnny set himself up well. I think Steven and Lama, they're gonna have to kind of hope the numbers work out for them. Yeah, but we're looking forward to maybe we'll get a nice little rematch between Joni and Specialist Steve in the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be good to see.
All right,
This is a fun one.
all right. Well, have a great one.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Bye.